Welcome back, everyone. We're jumping right back into our series, Locking In for the HSC.
Yep, and today we're tackling something huge.
Literally huge, how you manage those massive HSC tasks, the essays, the projects, all that study, without feeling totally, swamped.
Absolutely. It's our fourth deep dive specifically for you Year 12s heading into this really intense time.
Because that feeling, staring at, I don't know, a major work or a giant exam block, it just frees you.
Oh, completely. You know you need to start, but where? The sheer size of it all.
Mm.
It's paralyzing sometimes.
Okay, so that feeling, that's what we want to break down today. Our mission is to give you some really solid, practical ways to chop those big HSC tasks into smaller bits.
Stuff you can actually use, like today, not just theory.
Exactly, and it's not just about ticking boxes faster, it's really about lowering that stress level.
Because your brain, in Year 12,
Okay.
it's already working overtime. Trying to hold on to multiple huge tasks at once just creates this mental traffic jam. We call it cognitive load.
Right, cognitive load. Let's unpack that a bit. It's sort of like having too many tabs open on your computer.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. Everything slows down, gets glitchy, might even crash.
And your brain's the same, trying to process a massive essay outline and remember complex maths formulas and plan a speech.
Exactly. It struggles. It can't focus properly, it can't really absorb information effectively. That feeling of, ugh, where do I even start? That's your brain waving a red flag saying, too much, cognitive overload.
Okay, so if you're staring at that major work, thinking only about the final thing, the huge word count, the endless research.
Yeah, it just feels impossible. Your brain kind of shuts down a bit, making it really hard to engage.
So the big strategy we're pushing today is break it down.
Simple idea, but seriously powerful. And there are real benefits, like neurologically.
Okay, tell me more. What's the immediate payoff?
Well, first off, it directly cuts down that cognitive load we were talking about. Smaller steps are just, well, easier for your working memory to grasp and manage.
Like packing smaller bags instead of one giant suitcase.
Exactly. Much less overwhelming. And research backs this up. Breaking down complex reading or writing tasks actually helps students understand better and, perform better, which is pretty crucial for the HSC.
Makes total sense. If I'm just thinking about, say, finding 3 quotes for my first paragraph, that feels way less scary than write entire essay.
Precisely. And that directly tackles the anxiety, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Less dread.
Definitely less dread. The overwhelm often comes straight from how huge the task feels. Chop it up, and suddenly it seems doable. Like one source said, getting started is often the hardest part. A clear, small first step makes leaping that hurdle much, much easier.
And it's not just about feeling better, right? It actually helps you work better, too.
Absolutely. A better focus. If you're concentrating your mental energy just on analyzing, say, one historical source properly.
Instead of trying to juggle 5 different ideas at once.
Exactly. You can actually go deeper, produce higher quality work for that specific bit. You're not spreading your attention so thin.
Right. Better quality, step by step.
And just practically, it leads to better task completion. You have a clear roadmap, you see progress. For those big HSC projects that seem to stretch out forever, having those mini milestones is key.
Okay. I'm sold on the why.
Yeah.
So let's get down to the how. How do you actually take, say, a huge modern history assessment and carve it up into these manageable pieces? Where's step 1?
Step 1, and it sounds almost too simple, but it's critical.
Yeah.
You have to really understand the task itself fully.
Before you even think about breaking it down.
Yes. Know exactly what that final product needs to look like. What are the marking criteria? What are the specific requirements? Read the instructions, the rubric, everything. Ask your teacher questions if anything's fuzzy.
Know the destination before you draw the map. Got it.
Exactly. Once you've got that crystal clear picture of the end goal, then you start decomposing.
Decomposing. Sounds intense.
Yeah, maybe a bit. But it just means dividing the big task into smaller, sort of self-contained chunks. Each chunk should directly build towards that final goal.
So like for a science prac report.
Yeah, perfect example. You'd have chunks like initial research, then maybe formulate hypothesis, design experiment, gather materials, conduct experiment, analyze results, write discussion, write conclusion. Each is a distinct step.
That makes it seem much less like one giant blob of science report.
And remember that analogy one source used, making toast.
Oh, yeah, I liked that one.
Seems automatic, right? But it's actually several steps. Get bread, put in toaster, choose setting, wait, take out. If even toast has steps, then your complex HSC tasks definitely do. It makes them feel less alien when you break them down like that.
Right. So how do you make sure you identify all the steps, even the small ones?
Okay, so there's a technique called task analysis. This is where you might actually like walk through the task yourself or watch someone else do it and literally write down every single action.
Don't just rely on memory.
Definitely not. You'll miss things. Even stuff that seems obvious. Write it down. So for that history essay, it might be Step 1, read question carefully. Step 2, quick brainstorm initial ideas. Step 3, find one good primary source for argument A. Step 4, read and take notes on that source. See, super specific.
Okay, breaking it down really small. So now I have this list of mini tasks. Do I just like dive in anywhere?
Good question. No, the next step is sequencing. Put them in a logical order.
Makes sense. Some things have to happen before others.
Exactly. You can't write the analysis before you do the research, right?
Okay.
And figure out if any tasks depend on each other or maybe if some can be done in parallel at the same time.
Like creating a little project plan for each assignment.
That's precisely it. A mini timeline.
And speaking of timelines, estimating how long each little step takes, is that important?
Oh, absolutely crucial. Once you have your sequence, try to make a realistic guess for how long each mini task will take.
Doesn't have to be perfect.
Nah, just an estimate. But it gives you a much better handle on the overall time needed and helps you schedule your study realistically. And let's face it, in year 12, time is gold. So this is vital for managing it.
Definitely. Okay, list of tasks, sequenced, estimated times. But everything feels important. How do you decide what to actually do first?
Prioritization. Yep, that's key. Look at deadlines, obviously. Look at how much the task is worth the waiting, and look at those dependencies you just figured out.
So tackle the stuff that's due soonest, or worth the most marks, or that unlocks other tasks.
You got it. Focus your energy where it counts most strategically.
Right. And while we're being all strategic and planning, there's something else we need to schedule in, isn't there? Something vital.
Say breaks.
Breaks. Yes.
You absolutely have to schedule short breaks. It's not slacking off. It's essential for avoiding burnout and actually staying focused long term.
Your brain needs downtime to recharge and process.
Totally. Think of it like interval training for your study sessions. Work hard, rest briefly, work hard again.
Good analogy. It is a marathon, this HSC year. Okay, so we're working through a plan, taking breaks. How do we know if we're actually getting anywhere?
Track your progress. Keep that list of mini tasks handy and tick them off as you complete them.
Feels good to tick things off.
It really does. It gives you that sense of accomplishment, keeps you motivated. Plus, it helps you spot early if you're falling behind schedule or if certain things are taking way longer than you guessed.
So you can adjust before it becomes a crisis.
Exactly. Which leads nicely to the last step in this whole breakdown process.
What happens when the plan goes out the window? Because let's be real, it probably will at some point.
Life happens. That's where the final piece is. Review and adjust regularly.
Yeah.
Your initial plan isn't carved in stone.
Things change, right? Priorities shift, unexpected stuff comes up.
Yep. Maybe you underestimate how long research would take or a different subject suddenly needs more attention. You've got to be flexible. Look at your list, look at your timeline, and adapt as you go. Good planning is dynamic, not rigid.
Okay, that makes sense. So those are the foundational steps. But you mentioned some more like advanced techniques too, something about chunking.
Yeah, chunking. It's a really cool concept from cognitive psychology about optimizing your working memory.
How does it work?
Basically, you take smaller bits of information and group them into larger, meaningful units, chunks. Think about remembering a phone number. You don't usually remember it as 10 separate digits.
No, you group it, like area code, then 3 digits, then 4 digits.
Exactly. You've recoded those 10 individual items into 3 chunks. That takes up way less space in your short-term memory, making it easier to hold on to.
Ah, okay. Creating mental shortcuts, like the chess player example.
Oh yeah, the chess example is classic. Beginners look at a board and see maybe like 5 or 6 individual pieces they can remember. Experts, they can recall huge, complex positions almost instantly.
Is it just raw memory power?
Not really the main theory. It's thought that experts have built up this huge mental library of common piece patterns chunks. They see the board not as 30 individual pieces, but as maybe 5 or 6 familiar patterns.
So they're recognizing familiar groups.
Precisely. And interestingly, if you show those experts a board with pieces arranged totally randomly in ways that make no chess sense, their recall drops right back down to beginner level.
Wow, so it proves it's about recognizing those meaningful patterns, the chunks.
Exactly. So how can you use this for the HSC?
Yeah, how do we apply chunking to, say, studying biology?
Well, you're probably doing it already to some extent. When you learn a key term like photosynthesis, You're not thinking about each letter, you're accessing that whole concept chunk.
Okay.
So be conscious about it. Look for connections. Group-related facts, ideas, or steps in a process together. Creating mind maps is a great way to visually chunk information, or flashcards where you group related terms instead of just isolated definitions.
So instead of memorizing a long list of historical dates in isolation,
Yeah, maybe chunk them by event or by monarch or by theme, like causes of the revolution. It creates a more connected, memorable structure in your mind.
got it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what about the other technique, time chunking? Sounds similar but different.
It is different. Yeah, time chunking is more about time management. It's where you block out larger chunks of time, maybe like 1 hour, 2 hours, even 3 hours dedicated to one specific subject or one type of task.
So instead of doing 20 minutes of English, then 20 minutes of maths, then checking Instagram.
Exactly. You allocate, say, Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., purely for working on your physics depth study. No interruptions.
What's the big advantage of doing that?
Several big ones. First, focus. Deep focus. When you eliminate distractions and immerse yourself in one thing, you get into that flow state or deep work. The quality and quantity of what you produce can go way up.
Okay, better focus. What else?
Reduce decision fatigue. You know, that feeling of, oh, okay, finish that. What should I do now?
Yes. Waste so much energy.
Time chunking reduces that because you've pre-decided. Tuesday, 4-6 p.m. is physics. No debate. It also helps create clearer boundaries between study and downtime, which can actually improve work-life balance. Overall, it's just a really solid way to manage your workload and feel like you're making real progress.
Yeah, that decision fatigue thing really resonates. Okay, any tips for actually doing time chunking?
Yeah, first, figure out your chunk length. 1 hour, 90 minutes. 3 hours might be too long for some things. Experiment.
Find what works for you and the task.
Right. Then, build a routine. Put these chunks into your weekly schedule, like appointments. And this is crucial. Protect that time. Turn off phone notifications, close irrelevant tabs, find a quiet space. Maybe tell your family you need uninterrupted focus time then.
Treat those chunks seriously. Okay, now, what about those days? We all have them when you just cannot get started on something, especially something you're dreading.
Yeah, the procrastination struggle is real. Our sources had a couple of neat tricks for that initial inertia. One is called using momentum.
Momentum, how does
Right.
that work?
Start your study session with something you actually find, like easy or enjoyable, a subject you like, or a simple admin task related to school.
Get a quick win.
Exactly. Build up a little positive momentum, feel a bit productive, and then use that energy to pivot to the harder, more dreaded task. That initial success can make the scary thing feel less scary.
Ooh, I like that. Sort of tricking yourself into it. What's the other strategy?
It's kind of the opposite. It's the worst first approach.
Okay, sounds straightforward.
It is. You identify the task you're dreading the most, the one causing you the most anxiety, and you tackle that first thing in your study block.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Pretty much. The thinking is, once the worst is over, everything else feels easier by comparison. You get a massive sense of relief and accomplishment right at the start, which can power you through the rest of your session.
Okay. Two different tactics for motivation. Might depend on the day which one works better.
Totally. Good to have both in your toolkit.
Okay, so we've covered loads of techniques, but let's make it really concrete. Did we see any examples of students actually using these breakdown strategies effectively?
Yeah, there was a great little case study about a student, Josie. She was getting really overwhelmed by big assignments, procrastinating a lot.
Sounds familiar for many year 12s.
Definitely. So, with her parents' help, she started consciously breaking down a big history project into really small specific steps, like super granular. They even worked backward from the due date to set mini deadlines.
And did it work for her?
It really did. Josie said she felt way more in control, much less overwhelmed. She actually started, kind of enjoying ticking off the small steps. And, importantly, her history grades went up.
Wow, so it wasn't just about feeling better, it actually impacted her results.
Yep. The big takeaway for her was that breaking down that monster task made it feel doable, less scary. And that boosted her confidence for tackling future big assignments, too.
That's such a good example. It shows these aren't just like nice ideas. They actually work in the real world of the HSC.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And mindset is a huge part of this, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just the practical steps.
Right. Like focusing on small, achievable goals. Don't stare at the giant past the HSC mountain. Just focus on the next small step on the path.
Mm-hmm. And that idea of making a specific to-do list just for the tasks stressing you out the most.
Yeah, and breaking those down even further, like not just write English essay, but find 3 quotes for paragraph 2 or draft intro paragraph, tiny steps.
Super practical. Another great tip was planning tomorrow's tasks today and even getting the materials ready.
Oh yeah, lay out the textbook, open the document.
Exactly. It just removes one more barrier, one more excuse not to start when the time comes, makes it easier to just sit down and go.
And I loved that advice from the student online. Being done is better than being unfinished. Overcoming that perfectionism trap.
Such a crucial point for HSC students. Sometimes good enough and actually finished is way better than perfect, but never completed. You have to let go of that sometime. And finally, we just have to mention the basics again.
Oh.
You can have the best plan ever, but if you're not eating properly, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep.
Your brain just won't function optimally. Right?
Exactly. Self-care isn't an optional extra during the HSC. It's fundamental to being able to focus, learn, and actually execute all these great strategies. Don't neglect the basics.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. The big message, the core takeaway from this deep dive today seems pretty clear.
If that HSC workload feels like a tidal wave,
Remember the power of the small, breaking those huge, scary tasks down into tiny, manageable steps.
it genuinely reduces the overwhelm, sharpens your focus, boosts your productivity.
And ultimately helps you navigate the HSC year with a bit less stress and hopefully more success.
So we really encourage you, maybe even right after listening to this, pick one thing, one subject, one assignment that feels big and scary.
And just try applying these ideas. What's the absolute first tiny step you could take?
Even if it's just opening the textbook or finding the assignment notification.
Yeah. And on that note, here's something to really chew on. Think about that one HSC task right now that gives you that sinking feeling in your stomach, the one that feels most overwhelming. What is genuinely the very, very first, smallest, simplest action you could take towards it, like right now or later today?
And then think, what difference could it make over the coming weeks and months if you consistently approached all your big tasks with that same one small step at a time mindset? How might that change your whole HSC experience?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.